Hello, all you spry tubers, twitchers, and pod people out there. Welcome to the Could You Do It Better podcast, where filmmaker, gamer extraordinaire, and the behind-the-scenes awesomeness known as Sesh, and the writing and directing sensation known as Maria, discuss popular television shows and movies and answer the always controversial question of, could you do it better? Today, we will be discussing episode 5 of season 1 of Ryan Condal's House of the Dragon television series, based upon George R.R. Martin's novel, Fire and Blood. And as for me, I'm Jonathan the Intern, and unlike our two experts, have no industry experience whatsoever. In other words, I'm much like an engagement dancer. I dress up all pretty, only to flail around like a deranged bird all night and have my skull pounded in on the dance floor by everyone forced to hear me blather on. And now, to Sesh and Maria. Woo! Oh, there is no sadness here.
Hello, welcome.
All right, well, hello, everyone. We're going to have actually a better episode to talk to you about today. So that's fun. And as always, spoiler warning, in this episode, we'll be doing a detailed recap of episode 5 of the House of the Dragon TV series, and so it'll contain spoilers throughout. If you haven't watched this episode and don't want to hear spoilers before you do, please feel free to put us on mute as you watch the episode, then rewatch our show afterwards, because that's how you double view counts. And now, on to the recap as mandated by our legal department. We open in a stunning view of the Vale, where we follow a young woman on horseback, who we learn is Daemon's wife, not nearly as sheep-like in physique as she was described to be. After chastising him for a couple minutes as any good wife does to her husband, incredulously, this accomplished equestrian and former rider of Rohan somehow managed to spook her own horse, get thrown, and landed on Bad, paralyzing her, thereby making her the new three-eyed raven and queen of Westeros because she has stories. Oh, wait, no, wrong Game of Thrones show. And after insulting angry Doctor Who's manhood, or lack thereof, one final time, he rocks her to death. Onto the high seas, with seasick King Viserys on the way to Corlys's castle. This dude just cannot win. Hey, look, the king needed a strong hand, and now he's got one! Yay! Oh, and I guess the scene just suddenly ended. Okay. Over to former Hand Otto, acting like a bratty teenager to his daughter, the queen, for apparently not telling the king that his daughter was an incestuous hoeback. He gives her the fatherly wisdom that if she doesn't put her 3-year-old son on the throne, Rhaenyra will kill her babies. And back to the king and Rhaenyra on their way to Corlys. I knew that 5-second scene couldn't be over yet, only to be ignored upon arrival. That's more shade than Melisandre gave birth to. And now, over to Alicent and Lord Strong's kid having what looked to be awkward small talk until Mavis, doing his best Otto impression, suggests that Rhaenyra needed to take some morning after tea with the subtlety of Cersei's walk of shame. Jump cut to the beautiful interior design of Castle Driftmark. Corlys knows what he's doing. That's a very smooth sanded down wooden throne he's sitting on. We begin the dowry negotiations where the king offers Rhaenyra to Laenor in exchange that their firstborn child be named Targaryen. And that's it. It is readily apparent that Viserys is not a skilled negotiator or businessman, similar to how he is with, well, all other things. Hand Strong takes a stiff drink as Viserys tries to find a place to lie down and possibly die. Onto a romantic walk on the beach with talks of greasy goose, and Rhaenyra insinuating she wants an open relationship where they both are allowed to sleep with their uncles if they so choose. Laenor hearts this idea. Rhaenys and Corlys have a positive, loving discussion about sexuality and female empowerment. They know this is Game of Thrones, right? Meanwhile, Laenor rolls in the grass with his boyfriend while Sir Criston proposes to Rhaenyra, only to be given the mistress friends with benefits treatment. Poor, heartbroken Sir Criston. We finally arrive back in King's Landing, where Alicent, stroking her baby like Dr. Evil, summons Sir Criston to inquire whether her former BFF finally lost her V card. Kristen confirms he did and wishes death over gelding. Alicent is so confused, she's like, just go home, I guess. On to the king, getting leeched and waxing poetic about his legacy while his arm is sloughing off like a resurrected zombie. Drum beats. It's wedding time. Everyone is there, including Damon in a leather BDSM ensemble and angry Doctor Who swagger. Wedding crashing, a time-honored tradition. Viserys starts by giving the best speech he's had in, 5 episodes, only to be interrupted by the queen entering in a fierce green dress looking for blood. Exposition abounds from the peanut gallery. The king calls for 7 days of tournament and partying, ending in the royal wedding, as that's the earliest they could book the venue to get the DJ to arrive. I mean, what could possibly go wrong in 7 days? Begin the engagement dance of dragons, which apparently just involves slapping your arms like birds. Alicent is displeased and walks out. You know, there's one of those at every wedding. Lord Royce of the Vale accuses Damon of murder. Angry Doctor Who says, fake news, the Vale's mine, I own it, I have lawyers. Another stiff drink from Hand Strong. He might not make it through the end of this episode. Flirty dancing between Damon and Lena Valerian, where he's over rocking the Vale, and now on to polishing driftwood. Laener's boyfriend somehow makes assumptions about Rhaenyra and Sir Kristen's relationship despite there being hundreds of people there. Seems reasonable. And then, in the middle of the dance floor, Rhaenyra asks her uncle to slay all her Kingsguard, take her to Dragonstone, and marry her? Then they just are about to kiss. Oh, screaming. Oh, wait. No, sorry. That wasn't my brain. That was the show. It's a riot. Apparently, it's Sir Kristen deciding, you know what? I always wanted to punch a dude's face in. Why not this night of kisses? Well, glad we already put up that altar. On to the most depressing wedding ever, closed to the public and Rhaenyra in tears, coupled with Sir Kristen attempting to kill himself in front of Rhaenyra's favorite weirwood tree. Episode ends with Viserys passing out, Alicent stopping Sir Kristen, and a rat having that sweet, sweet blood wine. This episode is brought to you by Never Foul Foods Catering. How much sweat and blood have you drenched the floor with trying to cook your family a royal feast, only for it to end in tears and people stomping out? Here at Never Foul Foods Catering, our goose is never greasy, and our duck is never undercooked. All our meats are free-range and locally sourced, and best of all, we do all the hunting for you, so you never have to risk being thrown off a horse and paralyzed getting it yourself. That's Never Foul Foods Catering, where our goose is worth the gander. Back to you, Sesh and Maria.
Oh, what a good episode.
I died during that. That was too funny. Oh, gosh.
Good.
Oh.
All right. I have to thank legal for that. That was hilarious.
They know what they're doing,
Oh.
even when I don't.
All right. So the first question of the night is, why would they set up Damon's wife as a character we are interested in, only to kill her off so quickly? How would you have handled the scene? Let's begin with Sesh.
Oh, my tea is hot. Hold on. Okay. So the only other instantly likable character for me has been Corlys. So I was impressed. They finally did it. They had like a regular Game of Thrones scene. And one quick parting conversation, we had fully got who she is, her relationships, and we instantly had 2 likable characters. Same scene. It's a good one. That's some quality, some quality interactions that we'd see from Game of Thrones. It's what I've been craving, and we finally got it. I was excited to get to know them both better, and in Games of Thrones fashion, well, tragedy. So I'm retracting the positive things I've said of Damon so far. We haven't seen him kill like this solely for his own benefit. Nor have we seen him this violent with an innocent person. I'm trying to recall if we have. Can't really think of that. He now has a distinct place in my character assessment. The one thing that really annoyed me was that there was an absolutely laziness in the execution. Get it? So yeah, like, man, like he was nothing but lucky with how things played out. Unintentionally making her horse rear up, like didn't do anything other than walk towards her, and her being crushed and paralyzed. What is that luck? Like he also would have had to make things look like an accident. And the perfect accident literally happened for his own goals. The odds of that are just stupid unlikely, and we missed the chance of actually seeing him fight to the death in a battle with real stakes. It was especially annoying after such a concisely well done few moments. Having a scene utilize either like his or her bronze or brains in fighting, I think would have been a much better ending to it.
I agree with you. I'm going to jump in. Like, I was so excited to see her. The scene, it frustrated me because, yeah, from the first breath of seeing Lady Rhea commanding on her horse, I liked her. I'm like, finally, this is a character I could get behind. Maybe she's going to vie for the throne or something. She has that commanding presence. She was a breath of fresh air, a personality I was interested in getting to know, and they built her up. They kept talking about her, dissing her, that kind of thing. So I'm like, oh, she must really be a character here. She seemed like she had a good head on her shoulders and a woman who was used to running things. Then suddenly she sees Damon, realizes he wants to kill her, and then somehow manages to spook her own horse into basically killing her for him. I mean, even in murdering, Damon is a wet blanket. They rob any scene from him where it looks like he actually does something. I think they should have actually, like you said, showed Damon hurting her horse maliciously in spite of a valiant fight. And then he outright kills her. Right now, the way they shot it, it looks like a mercy killing. Like, oh, darn, you're paralyzed. I'll take care of it for you. What?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, I don't get it myself. Like, it's almost like the writers are bending over backwards out of fear of making Damon a despised character. It's simply not believable that a rider of the Vale, who's supposedly expert equestrians, would be thrown off their horse without doing anything to spook it. And it also seems near impossible that a well-trained horse would spook that easily. So is Damon simply a misunderstood sad boy we should all pity? The most unlucky man in all Westeros? Is that the character they're writing here? In my opinion, the writers need to show some guts and have him do something that clearly shows he initiated the murder. Have him stab the horse or punch it or blow a horn in its face, something. Then show him slowly walking over to the rock, picking it up, and asking her to beg for him to kill her. Something like that. Or, if you wanted to go super dark and write him more like the Mountain, and I'm already sorry to the entire viewing audience for bringing this up, but have him then, just like the Mountain does in Game of Thrones, sexually assault her paralyzed body that she can't fight off, and have him say, see, I finish, and then laugh at her and stomp the life out of her. Like, that's how you make an actual villain. Like, this is just weak.
A Game of Thrones villain.
Yeah, a Game of Thrones villain.
Evil. I will say though, I guess it's he's better lucky than good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get the luck he had in this scene. It's like just like won the lotto twice. Like,
yeah. I don't like my wife. Oh, she's dead. Okay, cool.
We took care of the horse problem with her getting away. Sweet, I don't even have to fight her. Like, how lucky could you be?
Like, how intimidating could that cloak he was wearing have been? I mean, she knows her husband. She knows he's a loser. Like, why is she even that scared of him? Like, oh, I'm on a horse. I have all my stuff. Bye. She could just just trotted away. Like that was.
Hey, it worked, and I know what you did last summer. So.
All right, our next question. What do you think of the dialogue in this episode? Were there particularly strong or weak scenes? Jonathan, I'll let you get started with that one.
All right. Overall, I generally liked the dialogue in this episode. Sure, there were moments of dialogue that featured cringeworthy exposition, like the line said by the wedding guests. But overall, I thought there were some outstanding interactions this episode. The Corliss, Rhaenys heart-to-heart seemed real to me and definitely developed Rhaenys's character, which is great because up till now they hadn't done anything with her, which is surprising considering they started the show on her. And I thought the Rhaenyra, Sir Kristen conversation was very good as well, as they conveyed the pain in his eyes, and he acted realistically when his proposal made out of honor was turned down and countered with a dishonorable one, requesting him being a willing mistress and adulterer. You know, it took us 5 episodes, but we got some realistic dialogue and character development in this one. And it makes sense as this episode progressed the main storyline, unlike the previous 4 episodes. So more of this one, please.
Sesh, what do you think?
Yeah, I for the most part I really liked it. I actually only have like 2 moments of this whole episode where I didn't like the dialogue. For the most part, I thought it was the best done of the whole series. This series, of course, but yes. Everyone finally felt like they are speaking as they are in the Game of Thrones series and like that world, and not just lazily written generic fantasy that it's felt like the whole time so far. My complaints are it felt a little too weird when Daemon was greeted by his wife, just with her saying husband. Even with the formality of the world and with the good delivery, I would have preferred she use his name, and in like fully conniving tone, he calling her his wife, and we still would have gotten the point as the audience, but a little bit less heavy-handed, and with a little one character beat at least would have been nice. The other bit I found annoying, even as a person who hasn't read the books and doesn't remember this, and so I need this little bit of information, is when Alicent walks into the wedding dramatically with her new little friend of a court, and the new little her friend asks the other guy in the court, "Oh, you know what color the beacon is in the high tower when they declare war?" He's like, "Yeah, dude, green. This is dramatic." Like it was too on the nose. Like I would have liked the subtler comment, like she's wearing her family's colors, ... instead of the Targaryen wedding colors. The implications of her dress and the lateness of it all would have made that same statement, but again, more cleverly done. And I actually did want to bring up one other part I particularly liked was with Alicent and her, well, with our queen and our ex-hand. Their parting words I thought were really well done, and like, oh, so there is actually war at stake here, rather than people just complaining. Like I actually really believed him when that was his concern.
Right. And I just want to say the king was wearing green too. So anyway, I actually thought a lot of the dialogue was good and even interesting in this episode. I felt like there was finally starting to be nuance in the dialogue and therefore the characters. The only place I felt like the dialogue was heavy-handed was with the son of the new hand. He was laying it on way too thick with the manipulation. The pressure Alicent's father was putting on her to get her baby on the throne or be nice to Ray Ray basically told me that she should make sure she is nice to Rhaenyra as a toddler on the throne is an absurdity. I don't know if any one scene in particular stood out to me dialogue-wise, as overall there was more nuance in the way the characters interacted. Albeit some of the nuance was ruined with too much repetition. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's true. Like, how much better would even that one scene with the green dress been if, like, the person just asked a question, like, do you know what color, they wear to signal war in Old Town? And the person just nodding, and like, you don't have to say green. Like, we get it. Like,
Yeah.
ugh.
I feel like they don't trust the audience to pick up on things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll be subtle, but then we'll just make sure they know in the next scene, like, or even the same scene. Like, we get it, we do. All right. So the next question is, what would the title of your song honoring King Viserys be? Jonathan, you want to start us off?
You know, it's been done better by someone else, but I'd take a page from Sum 41 on this one and go with, does this look infected? Over my head, better off dead. The Hell Dirge in D minor for lute and harpsichord.
For me, I would have an album first. It would be The King That Never Was. That's his album. And then feature song, Pieces of Me. Or another smaller, lesser known song, The Hand Was Just Somebody That I Used to Know.
Oh, good.
See, these are like really clever and punny. I was just going immediately with like, oh, it'd just be like a Game of Thrones like musical version of like Help. Or I mean the classic, which could also be in the Game of Thrones music scoring, Down with the Sickness.
Hey, there you go.
All right, to our next question. The axe Queen Alicent has to grind, is it justified? I think I'll go ahead and start with this one. This has me a bit confused. I am not sure why she's enraged. Sir Criston confirms to her that Ray was not lying and didn't sleep with her uncle, right? So her anger and distance after finding out doesn't quite jive to me. I could be missing something. I could see if she found out that she really did sleep with her uncle, how she would be totally betrayed and upset, but whether or not she slept with Sir Criston has no bearing on the circumstances of her father being fired. So what's up with that?
So I actually went in a different direction with one. I'm going to go with yes, but the justification in many ways I feel is of her own making. It's clear based on how the showrunners are portraying her, and her being Alicent's here, that she does care deeply for Rhaenyra, both as a friend and possibly as a romantic interest. I mean, they've hinted at that several times, so you know.
Okay, I see what you're saying here.
You know, she also feels very isolated in being queen while having what was her best friend lie to her, and in effect the queen about her virtue. And this is likely compounded by Rhaenyra lying about it on her mother's grave. You know,
but she didn't lie about it technically.
well, true. She said she didn't lose her virtue.
You know, I mean, she still wanted that to be her evening, so.
That's right.
It's like, no, I haven't done that yet.
Yeah. You're saying between the hours of 6 p.m. and 10 p.m.? Oh, yeah, no. I was just at the orgy. Yes, I wasn't participating in it.
Man, did I try.
My best effort.
Yeah. Hashtag virginal at 10 p.m. Oh, gosh. And, you know, plus, getting back on track, maybe. Plus, you know, she's also deeply hurt, you know, by the resentment Rhaenyra has shown her. So based on those facts, I'd say yes, I do feel she's justified in being angry at Rhaenyra and possibly even vengeful. And I think, let's face it, developmentally, she's still a teenager at this point. And I think most of us can recall high school or college BFFs devolving into fierce and bitter enemies over similar issues of, say, being given the cold shoulder or left out or lied to or gossiped about, you know? And that said, had Alicent not made the choice to seduce Rhaenyra's dad, yeah, this wouldn't have come to pass. So, you know, she should realize Rhaenyra is fully justified in absolutely and positively hating her guts. And hey, longstanding teenage dramas and soaps have made boatloads of money on this very principle. But, you know, in all, Alicent's anger at Rhaenyra is justified in my opinion, but everyone is to blame in this. It's not a one-sided thing at all here.
Yeah, I would say it's not one-sided. I would call it maybe High School of the Dragon.
Yes, yes, yes. The musical.
To be fair, it is not high school drama, but you're pulling from there that, yeah, I could see it. Okay, so I actually really get where she's coming from. Like, yes, it isn't all from her, but like, so obviously she didn't choose and does not enjoy being with the king / her best friend's dad, but she did her duty. She was always aware and pretty good at being delicate with Ray about the whole thing, and the unpleasantness of the situation. Ray does not respect the sexist roles and duty of the woman in the realm, and doesn't give her ex-friend much understanding for the situation. It's okay she wants to go against the grain when everything is so terrible for women of their world, but it clearly frustrated Alicent, who is living a life she hates while Ray is going out and acting in ways she would never. In their previous confrontation, I was a little confused by the anger at the incest. Like, yes, we get it, but when cousins, uncles, and half-brothers have been on the marriage table, it kind of distracted from like the main reason Ray's actions could have consequences, with the sexist around women, princesses in particular, being virgins, and the issue of heirs, and all the risks that come with getting pregnant, and you want to make sure you get the right heirs. Her getting with anyone, even a knight in this world, is not seen as something okay for Ray to do. Her confronting Ray was, and in Alicent's mind, the time for her to confide in her friend of the truth, whatever it was. And I think she would have been understanding in some ways, especially if Ray said it was something along the if she had mentioned something along the lines of like, I'm not as strong as you to put up with this life that you do and all the crap with it. Like if she had acknowledged what Alicent is going through at all, but Ray chose to just lie. Especially frustrating, I'm sure, since it wasn't even with Daemon. The aspect that Alicent was especially judgy about, like, why not say it was, with Cole? Like, she might have been able to understand getting with Cole, like, not Daemon, and it really put the nail in their coffin for their relationship by her lying about all of it entirely. Like, she hadn't had any choice. Alicent hasn't had any choice in the matter either, like, with her real life. With the end of her friendship, like it was all just that lie. Like same with her relationship with the king. As far as she sees it, he fired / banished her father because he lied, while also taking actions that show he believed her father, with providing the tea. Like he's really just the worst person for understanding why anyone might be mad at him. But everyone who was pissed at the king is rightfully pissed at the king.
You guys make excellent points there. I get it.
Convinced.
I see.
Well, you can still go with no. It's like she answered the truth
every day.
I need to assess how I think about things. All right. Next question. So, chaos at the wedding. What were the weaknesses and strengths of the handling of the wedding scenes for you? And could you do it better? What do you think, Sesh?
I was misled with my high expectations by the time of the wedding, since the episode was pretty good. I think I was expecting an assassin attempt maybe, or something more political than a passion murder. I think them misleading us with Daemon and Ray passionately grabbing each other's faces in the middle of everything was weird, despite their horny secret conversation. And it kind of distracted me, I'd say, and definitely kind of threw off what was happening that caused the chaos. Like I would have liked to have seen the start of the chaos handled differently. Not necessarily more clear on what was happening, but just not that distraction. But yeah, I just wanted to focus on something else rather than Daemon about it to eat her face. So Oh, so the Night of Kisses. I mostly loved it. I love that he picked out Cole by the way Cole was especially just not watching the dance. That was really brilliant. Very well done. I do wish he hadn't wet up to say anything, and I wish that, before the climax of the wedding, that, that was a dumb way to stir things up. Like, this was day one of a 7-day wedding. And it was right after he pointedly pointed it out, how they know a secret and how good that is for their situation. Like, maybe sit on that secret for a better time, or allow for any reason to actually reveal that what that secret is. Be smart about it for a minute. I also would have liked to see more of the week-long wedding celebrations, actually, to go in the next episode, especially with the drama and the conflict all being finally at a good place, and for Damon showing up and so many characters all present. Yeah, I would have really liked to just see this actually extend a little bit longer. The show is really bad at not just tying everything up by the end of the episode. We finally have enough stuff to carry into the next episode, but there was no reason to have the wedding go bad so early, other than maybe fan expectations for the Game of Thrones weddings. This would have been really entertaining if it played out slower.
Yeah, I mean, I thought there was tension building with the different conversations being held. Mm-hmm. While not really high stakes, it was still some form of tension. However, the fighting and chaos was extremely confusing because it wasn't clear what instigated it. They did not show that visually. It almost sounded like someone from outside the castle had come to wage war. Mm-hmm. But instead, all that chaos was Sir Kristen beating the Knight of Kisses face in? How was no one else murdered, since this kind of crowd likes to randomly kill? Where was where was security for the prince and princess? They could have easily been shanked and no one would have known who did it. It all just was a mess visually and story-wise for me. I was liking the setting at first, but it just took such a random turn that it didn't really have a chance to build any drama because it was just too confusing. If Sir Kristen was upset by what the knight said, it didn't make sense for him to attack him then and there, if to attack him even at all. Mm-hmm. And like you said, Sesh, that was a beautiful place to milk different elements of characters, extended a few episodes even. That's what that's for, a wedding? Come on.
Yeah, by the way, I think security was there. They were the ones doing the beating of the faces in.
Oh, right.
Instead of protecting.
Instead of protecting
people. Yeah. Just like any good security. I think my entire thought process throughout the wedding scenes were wow, what beautiful visuals, interspersed with a healthy dose of intrigue, same as you guys. And wait, what? I'll say this. I think the director went on a limb here, and I'll give them some props for it. I think the director was going for visualizing the chaos and making the viewer feel like they were right in the middle of it, and a guest at the wedding, where you don't necessarily know what's fully going on, but it wasn't good and everyone was in danger. And I think that's a brave choice. I don't particularly like it for this because you're spending a lot of money on the visuals for the wedding, have that come through. But I'll say that's a brave choice. That said, a couple things really took me out of it as a viewer. The first was the dialogue, which featured heavy doses of exposition from the guests, which we talked about before, green being the color of war, the whole conversation between Laenor and the Knight of Kisses, it just followed it just was an entirely ridiculous leap in logic, that pushed the Knight of Kisses and Sir Kristen exchanges. And I think that's the main thing I have a problem with, is that it didn't seem natural. It seemed really, really, really pushed in a very condensed period of time, which, logically, it just didn't make sense. And it certainly didn't make sense logically for Kristen's character to take that action, nor did it make sense for Joffrey to intuit Kristen Rhaenyra's relationship and then approach him about it. Some of these scenes just seemed out of character in terms of that. Overall, in my opinion, something more needed to happen to sow these seeds of chaos. Now, to do that, Joffrey, who's the Knight of Kisses, he could maybe he could hear something or be close to an interaction between Rhaenyra and Sir Criston, or say he went over to Sir Criston. He could have spoken in extremely vulgar terms about how all four of them will be having a go with one another in a perpetual orgy, you know, and how exciting it's going to be. And
to make him angry, yeah.
Yeah, and Criston.
Yeah, well, made me think of something else too they could have done.
Yeah, well, not to make him angry. Maybe because he thinks
That's
that he's in on it, like everybody's in on it, you know. And Kristen just completely loses it. Even screaming, you know, something like "You will not dishonor the princess," you know, while punching his face in. Because I mean, that's the whole thing. If we're talking about what motivates Sir Criston, it's honor, you know, and. There needed to be a bit more on my end to logically make sense for that.
That makes me think of something. Once you're ready, I got a goodie here.
Yeah. And the second thing, I'm almost done, was that ridiculous scene between Daemon and Rhaenyra on the dance floor. I mean, what the actual heck? I mean, that made so little sense for that to happen and in front of everybody. Like, yeah, they're just gonna start making out on the dance floor, like in the middle of the floor.
Perfect segue.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. You know, where was Sir Criston to tell him to move along?
Right? Like, you know? That's all what I thought was happening. But so perfect segue. What I would have liked to have seen actually is the Knight of Kisses actually theorize that it was Daemon, because that rumor people don't know about.
Yeah.
That would have been some extra drama there if that rumor had gotten out. So that would have been nice to see something like that. Again, to have it play out a little bit more and to leave something for next episode.
No, agreed. If he came up to Kristen going ahead and asking like, so, you know, is her suitor Daemon going to be part of this as well, you know, and he just loses his mind.
Well, it's like right now, so he had to go and, you know, eat her face in the middle of the dance floor because, you know, they were going to kill off the one guy who could have figured out the rumor. So now he needed to, you know, he had to cause a rumor again somehow.
Poor King.
Again, his theme song is Help.
So this is we're on to a new question. We're adding, it's called the bonus showrunner question. So the director, Claire Kilner, said that Daemon was specifically written such that the viewer wouldn't know what is going on in his head at any point, including whether or not he purposely went to kill his wife. The showrunners also said this episode was meant to be Alicent's coming out party. Do you feel the director and showrunners hit their marks? Jonathan, I think you want to start.
Yeah, I can go ahead and start with this one. And for anybody who didn't see it, these were after the teaser for the next episode, and it was the behind-the-scenes portion. But the director and showrunner give some insight into their decisions. So that's why we're going to talk about it. And with regard to Daemon and that effect, I mean, yeah, sure. You know, it definitely comes across that nobody knows what Daemon is going to do, including the writers and directors. You know, they're not even on the same page. They were saying different things about it in the extras. But quite frankly, I think this makes for an extraordinarily poor character without some deep driving motivation. Without any major motivation, he's a rudderless character who can be written differently in every episode because, oh, well, he's Daemon, he can do anything. He's crazy, man, he's loco. You know, the problem is this doesn't make for good writing, as he's basically nobody. And I'm not talking about Jack and Hagar nobody. but nobody, as in nobody anyone can identify with, as he's not made to be identified with.
Yeah.
As Rene Descartes' inverse twin would say, he doesn't think, therefore he isn't. If we compare to Game of Thrones, both Joffrey and Cersei were two characters who you never had any idea what they were going to do. But Joffrey was motivated by a sociopath mentality, and Cersei was motivated to do whatever it was she thought necessary to protect her family and the Lannister seat of power. Daemon is just a walking storyboard point. And if that's the director's intention, then yes, they hit the nail on the head. But I really don't think that's a character choice you ever want to aspire to. He's an awful character if that's really what they're going for. Give him something, anything. As for Alicent, I disagree. I can't say I saw this episode as a coming out party for her or showing her growth. She seemed to me like a teenager furious with an ex-best friend. Yes, she made the choice to purposely show up late to embarrass Rhaenyra and show dissatisfaction. But in my opinion, you don't get empowerment on expository dialogue like she's wearing green. That means war alone. Seeing her actually take charge of something and take a direct action would do that for me. You don't put on your power outfit and call yourself Cersei. You also have to blow up the set.
I'll go next on this one. So yeah, for Daemon's character, I feel like to have unpredictability, there first needs to be a pattern of behavior, and then they diverge from it. But he doesn't have any pattern of behavior, so you can't be unpredictably unpredictable. It's just predictable. We know he's just never going to be the same, and that's not interesting. There's no character there. It's just a figure. So yeah, I agree with you on that. It's like he's not written. He's just whatever the whim of the episode is, which is frustrating. And it doesn't let us like or hate the guy. It's just, oh, okay, he's got a smarmy attitude. That's the only thing that is consistent to some degree. But outside of that, for Alicent, I agree with you completely. She didn't show any strength outside of wearing a dress. And yes, she's standing taller, and that's nice. And yes, she's looking upset. Okay. But doesn't show her thought process, her manipulating any situation, her telling the king this is how it needs to be done. Nothing. So she just still looks like a child. And it's sad that they thought that's her coming out. That shows to me that she's never really going to show much strength, if that is what they imagine her strength to be.
Yeah, I mean, the shocking thing is they said they wondered if the audience would pick up on the subtlety of her choosing green
Stop it.
as the color of her dress.
Because it was super subtle.
Yeah.
Subtle, guys. This means war.
Yeah. And then saying immediately after that how clear and obvious it is that she's finally grown into her own as the all-powerful queen. And it's like I think you reversed those two based off of how you showed the episode.
Yeah.
And just one last thing. It just doesn't make sense when her dad tells her either prepare your toddler son for the throne or be nice to Ray Ray. She decided to do neither of those things. Just kind of like, I'm just going to be mad.
Yeah, like I feel like we haven't seen it yet. I'm gonna do her bit first, since we're on her. So I don't think, she didn't do anything but in this episode, it felt like she was setting up the pieces. Like for her, I'm looking forward to how clever and I expect likely cruel she will be. Her parting with her father I felt pretty heartfelt and practical. And compounded by the lies of her friend. And the king going along with it without thinking of her at all once again, like just banishing one of her family members. and stealing her from her best friend / potential interest. Yeah, she hit a breaking point, and like the king mentioned, how he thinks he could have been made of tougher stuff if challenged. He's wrong, but I think we're gonna maybe see that with her, and I'm excited to see her have her new knight ally and other secret allies that mostly that nobody will expect the things I think she'll do. Now, for Damon, I find it funny because now I feel like I know him better than ever, and he's kind of disappointingly evil. Like, it seems like he used to actually care for his mistress, and used to, but now has like diminishing love for his brother. But really now it feels like, other than just Ray and their little gross coupling stuff, that's gonna happen sometime, guys. It's not a will they, won't they. It's just when will they. He really has nothing except his own personal gain as his goal. Like, there's really nothing else he cares about. Like, I think he did have a lot of potential to be maybe more of an anti-hero type before, but there's not a chance now. Like, he's just very one-dimensional.
Yeah. I think we're all in agreement. Like, I think, if anything, this is what shows the importance of going ahead and mapping out your characters ahead of time. Because if there is one thing I have learned from Maria and Sesh, it's that you can't just show up to a pitch meeting going ahead and saying that.
Are you talking bad about my pitch meeting?
What? No, I'm not. No. You can't just show up at a meeting saying, "Oh, I have this crazy character," and they ask you, "Okay, so what's crazy about the character?" And then you're like, "Oh, he's just crazy." It doesn't come across. It's like, well, say his background. Oh, he doesn't have one. Well,
there's no background.
Motivation. No,
That's
he doesn't.
A mystery.
Yeah.
That's a mystery.
Why is he crazy? Why is he evil? We don't know. He is.
No. Yeah. Like that is. He's not even chaotic evil or chaotic neutral or chaotic good. He's not even. He's barely chaotic. He's like written chaotic.
Well, who's more evil, him or the king? All the stuff the king's been doing. Oh, I don't care. These swarms of people are dying. Oh, I don't care. You're my daughter's best friend. Oh, I don't care if you're my wife's father. Like, would Damon do that?
Would Damon do anything? That is
anything other than just murder some more people.
You make a great point. If they were trying to show a family where you have two brothers who clearly don't have a single brain cell between them.
Biggest douchebags in the entire land.
Oh, man. All right. Let's see if we have any questions from our audience members at this time, since we're about time for that. Looking at the different platforms we have. No questions this week. All right.
I say that means you guys just picked some pretty good questions.
Here we go.
Hey! I shouldn't take credit for that. That's all Maria. I can't take credit for anything on this show.
Well, yeah, the intern.
So, Sesh, do you want to start us off with the ratings?
Yeah. So, yep, I'm retroactively making all previous ratings like 2 to 3, and wishing this episode was actually just episode 2, maybe 3, with all the lame time we've already spent on this series. I'm calling this one a solid 7. My standards are high again for the series. This was definitely the best episode so far, and this is the level of which I have been hoping for this entire time. It's not perfect, no, but there's so little they did that's like frustratingly bad, and really I'd say it's frustrating because it could have been some pretty easy fixes. It's more that they just could have been better. I share in the concern that we're already jumping ahead in the future for next episode from the looks of things. All the drama and conflicts are going to be stale. All the plotting and intrigue is going to be skipped over, and we're just going to see the results. I'm really hoping they can keep their stride, but knowing another time jump is next, I'm still not able to get my hopes up.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there, you know. Skipping forward 10 years, I mean, again, that means we're right back to square one, and you know, we're having recasting of characters. And this is what, like the 6th major time skip in this series? We're 6 episodes in. I mean,
yeah.
It is. It makes no sense to me, especially because I'm in complete agreement. Overall, this was a much, much, much better episode. And this was definitely the best episode of the series. I too should probably change my rating of episode 2 to a couple points lower. Like I just got excited because it was so much better than episode 1. But you know, and we'll be honest here. There were still major issues with this episode. Both the wedding and the scene in the Vale, and some awful expository dialogue. Like that shouldn't be there. And when Game of Thrones was good, you know, when we were rating the show in the 9s and 10s, you know, you didn't see any of that. So that's where we're trying to make the distinction. Like there's a difference between saying, hey, this was a good episode, we liked it, versus, hey, this was a well-written, well-directed, you know, well-crafted episode. Overall, this episode, it was a big step forward for me. And I think you can definitely put this in the win column. I liked it. You know, did I love it? No. Did I think it was perfect? No, you know, but I liked it. It was fun. It was good. It reminded me of Game of Thrones, you know, and so I'm going to give this a solid B as well, with a 7.5 out of 10, and a hope that it builds off of this and is more true to form of what the series will be. And that's why it's so discouraging to see another time jump, because I'm like, they could have started the show right here. We would have been perfectly happy with it. Mm-hmm. And then they could have just ran it from here, showing intriguing things that happen. Like this could be the series. I'm left again asking, what is this series about? Like we finally got here and we're like, oh, I think we know what the series is about. And now it's like, well, we're going to relearn this next episode. So confusing choices there.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this was the first time in this series that the cinematography matched the mood and matched the dialogue and the writing. It felt like it was cohesive. It felt like, oh, okay, we're getting started. This is Game of Thrones light. And it's like, well, maybe they'll get stronger, which is an exciting thing. But then obviously seeing the time skips and it looked like Dragon Daycare is what we're going for. That was disappointing. But yeah, I wouldn't give it a 7, but 6.5 for me was this, mainly because of the excessiveness of their subtlety.
We're being so subtle, everyone.
Outside of that, I did enjoy it, and the wedding scene was definitely leaving me wishing they did it differently, which was sad. But at least they had a beautiful wedding scene. At least I did feel like, oh, okay, we're getting into the brand of this show. That's how I felt. So.
Yes. Oh, and we have a comment from Bear UNLV. I like how the rats are a recurring theme in the episodes. Yeah. I will say the rats definitely have more character development than Damon so far. So
I might be a little sad we're not still getting crabs. I like the crab angle, you know, but rats will do.
I do think it's interesting that the rats are mainly only associated with the king. Like
that could be the problem. Like maybe he just has one who just keeps following him around, you know, nibbling on him here and there. We think it's the throne, but really
the rats.
Really.
You know, I have one thing I noticed that was really, I did think it was another good thing I noticed in this, and that made me think of it, because he doesn't have dragons, he has rats. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot to write this down. There's the scene where he's getting seasick. So he gets motion sickness. There ain't no way he's riding a dragon. Like, what kind of Targaryen is he?
You know what? That's a really good point.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. And they did it well. It just has implications. That's how you do a scene.
Oh,
That's actually pretty good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
I like this episode's all right. They did all right. They definitely did.
All right. So with that, I think we have reached about our end point. Unless we have really about 2 minutes of time. So if anybody has a quick question, we can go ahead and answer that. Let's look. One last question for the
This is
buzz.
what's going to happen in the future in this next episode. See who's right.
Great episode. Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate it. Again, thanks for listening to the end. And again, to everybody who tunes in, listens to us, we really appreciate it. And we really do this to not only entertain ourselves, but to entertain you as well. I mean, I don't voluntarily go in that cage for nothing. Actually, I do. Oh well, but thank you for joining us tonight. And
Tell people about that.
I see HR going ahead and waving their hands over their head. Every episode I get whipped. It's terrible. It's terrible.
Like a very unexpected turn.
I know. So we really appreciate your support. Hopefully, we brought you some intelligent conversation and laughs tonight. And if you like this show, please like, share, subscribe, hearts, do all those nice things. And
All the buttons.
yeah, and if you hated the show, please make sure to like twice, as that really shows in the metrics, and we definitely get the hint there. We'll make things different just for you. Just keep tuning in, and the changes are coming. So bad news is that due to some scheduling conflicts, our next episode will actually be on Wednesday, September 28th at 8 p.m. Pacific. 11 p.m. Eastern. Can't be helped. So for you regular Monday listeners, hopefully this change in date won't be too problematic for you. I know it's not quite day after water cooler talk, but we're gonna do it anyway. We just unfortunately can't make it.
We are interviewing a up-and-coming filmmaker and writer soon, this Thursday evening, and we'll post that.
Yeah, that should be pretty fun. You can hear more people who aren't me talk about what it's like writing and their background, and maybe they'll even answer what they think they could have done better if they knew what they know now when they started out. So until next time, could you do it better? All right, thanks everybody. Okay.
We're still here.
So we were faked out here. We're still live.
Perfect time.
Somebody's gonna have to fix this in post and put the question before.
From Rebel Warren, did the knight's actions make sense?
Oh, for Sir Kristen. I'm guessing you're saying. Are you saying Sir Kristen, Warren, or are you saying
The Night of Kisses?
the Night of Kisses? Yes, so I'm guessing Sir Kristen.
Yeah.
Well,
Who wants to take this?
Well, I mean, I ranted about it a little earlier, and I think most of us say, based off of how they wrote the scene and what we saw, I don't think I know I'm speaking for everyone here. I think pretty much all of us said no. It didn't based off of how they actually portrayed it. Because Kristen's character, they've made him seem extremely honorable. Like, even if he's deeply hurt, even if he feels like shamed or dishonored by what the princess did, it seems in his character that there is no way whatsoever he would have acted and behaved like that, even with the Knight of Kisses coming up to him. That said, I do believe that it is possible that they could have written it in a way where he would have snapped, where he'd be beating up and killing the Knight of Kisses to quote unquote protect the princess's honor.
Mm-hmm.
And in the same way, almost like he's trying to protect his honor in doing it, and then just dropping even more shame-filled actions there. So that was my take on it. I'd say no, but it's possible it could have been a yes. I have heard that in the book they did this differently. So.
Oh, interesting.
That would be interesting. I would be curious to know how that was. I think I pretty much agree. Like there was reason for it. That part made sense to me, but this is probably one of the main things I would have liked to have seen played out more and us see a little bit more of the week-long celebration of this wedding. I would have really liked to see it be a boiling point. I would have liked to see it be something that was like nicked and picked at, maybe for over a few scenes. Him just having an outrage fit really didn't fit in. And I think he kind of missed the message, like, we'll both be safe if we keep each other's secret. I mean, that's like, it's not quite a threat, like I do see that he could see it as a threat, but it was just such a crazy kind of outburst to do, and just in the middle of everything with everyone, and it can still be so damaging. It really would have been nice to have that play out some more. And the way, again, with like the editing, it made it very strange because they left them off in the corner when we last saw them, like by the pillar, away from all the dancing and everything. And then we have a good amount of time and they are just both suddenly in the middle. Like, I feel like there would have been some kind of lead up to Cole, the knight, storming through the dancing crowd to go kill this guy. And there wasn't any of that. It was very sudden, and placement wise of where people were, I think they did a really good job establishing that until this scene, and then it didn't make sense. Like, it didn't add like a good layer of chaos to the scene. It was just more confusing. Like, yeah. So that's the start of that, the reason for it, and then just they could have really played it out a lot better if they let it ride a little bit.
Yeah, and Rebel Warren was saying that in the books he killed him during a tourney, which makes sense for his character because he's doing it in an honorable way.
Oh, really? Yeah, no, that's way better. That's absolutely so much better. And there's still ways, like, even just maybe the queen could have also noticed how, like, he was particularly not watching the dance, and he might not be happy about how things are playing out, and she still could have had him as an ally. Like, it doesn't actually change any plot point.
Yeah,
I would have see it that way. And we've seen how good he is at that too, so would have made a lot more sense.
Yeah. All right, so if there aren't any other... Oh, here, I think we have another message. They just wanted to do a red wedding scene.
Yeah.
But did they?
Not even as good as the, what was it called, the purple wedding?
Yeah.
Yeah, purple wedding was pretty good.
I mean, it was pretty good.
I mean, to talk about the red wedding scene, I mean, it was just so, yes.
All of it.
It built up his pride and his ego, and now suddenly his head is on a spike and they're dancing around. Oh, look at the great wolf, that kind of thing. It's
so good.
Powerful.
Yeah.
There was no character getting their gettins.
Like, I'm sorry, Knight of Kisses didn't deserve it. Like, definitely not.
There was no comeuppance, there was no poetry to the events there, so it didn't hit.
Yeah.
For me.
Guy made this one guy mad a minute ago.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for the questions and for watching Rebel Warren. We appreciate it. And again, yeah, to everybody else out there who's been listening, joining us again, deeply appreciated. I'm not going to do the full outro again, but again, due to scheduling conflicts, our next episode will be live on Wednesday, September 28th at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern time. We can't do it Monday, so Wednesday next week. And hope to see you all there. And until next time, could you do it better?
Thanks, you guys.
Bye.